Good morning, it's Jane with Scraptastic Yarns. How is everybody doing today? Today is Tuesday, March the 19th. I looked at the calendar. I know what day it is. Sometimes I begin to wonder. I have an acquisition that I received, and I'm going to show you the acquisition, and it has to do with sewing. I thought that I had some lovely bias tape makers. No, I went looking, couldn't find any, and then I realized I had given them away because I didn't make anything that needed bias tape makers. Yeah. So I purchased a lovely little kit online for the bias tape makers, and I like the way that it came because it came in its own case, although it does have a foot on it to actually add the bias tape. But I cannot use this because I have a Bernina machine and I already have a device, a foot that allows me to put the bias tape on. But that's an addition, and of course they give you the little tape measure, a lovely awl, which is nice. Not sure why you need an awl with the bias tape maker. Although, some people use it to push the end into it. I don't normally when I've used it before, and they give you a little packet of pins. Isn't that sweet? So anyway, that was one of the purchases I made this week. Because it was much needed, I have completely used up all of my t-shirt yarn for ties for masks that I've been sending out. Lately I've been sending them out to the Indian reservations because they're being hit hard by this COVID thing. Oh no, I said the word. YouTube's gonna ding me. Oh well, too bad. Gotta call it what it is, folks. Anyway, so yeah, I needed something to help make some bias tapes because, I'm not bright enough to use the two pins that go across each other, which I found after I bought the kit and it got here. That's okay. It'll all work out, right? So anyway, I'm still making masks, like crazy. Although I do have some finished objects. Yes, I do. The first one is the first hat that Crystal Day created. And it's a cute little hat. Now, my head measurement is 21 and a half. Now, here is the second one. And I've said this before. When I watch Crystal crochet, I don't think she's crocheting too tightly. But whenever I make any of her hat patterns, the hats are humongous on me. So there's number 2. I used the J hook instead of the I hook. I thought, I'll try it with this one. So apparently somebody with big hair is going to get that one. And then of course the next one was this one. And I really like this pattern. I think I'm going to make me one out of that pattern because I really liked it. And the rest of these hats I've done all in the I hook instead of the J hook she recommended. And there's that one. I like this one. And then of course this beanie was just the plain single crochet. It's okay. It's alright. I'm not a big fan of single crochet hats. but it's really nice and warm. And then we got to this one. This one was a little snugger. Didn't really care for it. It's a cute pattern. But as you'll see on the bottom, I chose to, and she did single crochets. I just did 2 rows of half double crochets. And then I did a crab stitch around the last one. And then here we get to this last hat with the zigzag of the herringbone stitch. But when we got to that second hat, I was really bored. So I sat down. And I had started the hat with the normal increases to the point where I was ready to start going down. And I thought, you know what I am gonna do? And this is the half double crochet herringbone stitch, but it is done completely in the round. So it just slants the one way, all the way around. And then when I got down to the bottom, I did 2 rows of half double herringbone stitch. So I have 8 hats now. Yay! I got finished. So I've been making hats in the evening here and there, working on the crochet along that I'd started with the shirt, knitting and crocheting, and I'll have an update for the crochet along part probably later on this week. I'm filming this afternoon for that. Kind of taking the day off from sewing. I have done quite a bit of cutting. After I get through here, I'll go do some more cutting so that I'm ready to just get back into it and get a move on with that. So, and I do want to also tell you, for those of you that haven't noticed with YouTube, you know, I talked about this the other day about when I go in and I watch a YouTube video, it'll tell me that I'm not subscribed to that person, and I know I'm subscribed because that red button's all lit up, so I'll subscribe again. So I don't know if I'm unsubscribing, subscribing, because YouTube, ever since they put that new Creator Studio and some of the added features that they have done, they have royally screwed up YouTube again. And why do I say royally? Because when I go in to look at comments, there will be comments that are weeks old. And I know that I have looked at them, given them the heart, thumbs up, or replied. Yet, they're nowhere to be found. So apparently YouTube is having some kind of issue. And I've also noticed that many times I will get, you know, when the bell highlights and you see those numbers up there, I'll go look and I'll see all these people that I'm not subscribed to, that I'm getting notices to. So I'm like, well, thank you, YouTube. You know, there are times I wonder if they're just a bunch of teenagers in somebody's garage or their parents' basement coming up with these ideas. You would think that if they're going to create an algorithm and all this other stuff, they would run the diagnostics to make sure it doesn't screw everything up. But apparently they don't do that. They just boom, upload it, and there we go. A royal mess, YouTube. But, yeah, okay. Whatever, YouTube. You know, we'll keep going with you as long as we can. Although, you know, we've been looking at other formats. because this is getting rather old with YouTube. They have really, I don't know what they're doing. They're really just screwing things up big time. I have had a couple of people ask me if I make the surgical masks that tie. Yes, I do. Those are generally what I am making and sending off to, well, I'll do a little bit of this. The Native American tribes that I've been sending to, I send a lot that are tied, but I also send about 50 or 60 that have elastic because the elders, lots of times, elders have trouble tying the mask on, so I will send elastics with those too. Yes, I do make the ties. I don't generally put those up for sale. I had a couple of those that I'd placed on Etsy for sale, and they just sat there and sat there and sat there. So I finally just sent them off to either some nursing home, healthcare facility, nurses, someone who had requested. But yeah, and I keep thinking there's going to come a time when I don't have to make any more masks because we're all masked out and saturated. But those lists just seem to keep growing and growing. So apparently there are a lot that need them. Yeah, but I am making bags this weekend. I'm going to make a couple of bags just as a break. I did that one week and I enjoyed it a lot, so I'm going to do a little bit of that. And then next week, I've decided on Monday afternoon, I have 2 quilts I need to get quilted, so I will quilt those quilts. And then I can quit worrying about those quilts sitting there waiting to be quilted because that bothers me. I do have some tops I can put together and quilt, but I'm going to save those for a later date. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing nowadays. It just seems like it's never ending. You know, I do feel like we're on Groundhog Day. One day rolls into the next. You know, that kind of thing. Although I'm really thrilled that this coming weekend our church is going to meet. Pastor did tease me that we will, when we come in, we'll have to have our temperature checked. We'll be wearing a mask. We'll have to hand sanitize our entire body, completely shed our clothes, don a robe before we can enter the sanctuary. Now, she was teasing, but I was like, okay. And my first thought was, do I have to get rid of my nipple rings? I don't have nipple rings. But it just came to mind because I could just imagine if you had to do that to go into church, how many people would do that just to go into church? And I'm sorry. I do think that your church, your religion, your faith is absolutely essential. It is not only spiritual health, but it is mental health for you, and it's a vital thing. I don't think people realize that your pastor or your faith leaders, whatever, lots of times are your mentors and somebody you can talk to about what's going on in your life just to get it off your chest. So, government, those of you that don't think church isn't essential, you're nuts. And there are plenty of ways to do social distancing with church. One of my friends, her son is a pastor of a church here in our area, and they do car church every week. They get up on a stage in the parking lot. People are parked in their cars. They stay in their cars for the service. They have a speaker, they broadcast. They're working on getting it to where you can turn your radio to a station so you can actually hear the worship service and, you know, the entire thing. But Yeah, and they've been putting them on YouTube. So I've been going and watching. I do enjoy her son's sermons. He gets a little in there. And so, yeah, it's been really nice getting to watch him. And of course, you know, a lot of people when they're in church, pastor will say something, and a lot of people in the audience will say amen. And instead of saying amen, they're honking their horns. So it's a lot of fun, to sit and watch and to get a little bit of some good word in that way, besides the usual just reading in in the word. But yeah, our spiritual um, health is an essential thing. So yeah, I don't know how I got off on that. Okay, here we go. It's time for one incarnation, and there are some rather cute stories. Not as cute as before, but interesting. Loose tiger lassoed on street in Mexican suburb. A surprise witness on a street in Mexico captured video of a surreal moment. A loose tiger was lassoed by a man wearing a cowboy hat. Footage filmed from the safety of a passing vehicle in the suburb of Guadalajara, Jalisco, shows the tiger walking loose down a sidewalk while three men chase the large animal. One of the men, wearing a cowboy hat, managed to lasso the tiger, which then pulls the man out of the video's frame. I can't imagine. Tigers are pretty powerful. Authorities confirmed they received witness reports about the loose tiger and its pursuers, but the big cat and the men were gone from the area by the time they arrived. Reports indicate the tiger may have escaped from a private residence in the area, but authorities have not identified the animal's owner or any of the men seen in the video. And I'm thinking, boy, those vaqueros, they did their job. They lassoed that critter and got him home. Now, this next story is kind of interesting. Bull scratching itself on a utility pole knocks out power to 700 homes. A bull attempting to alleviate an itchy bum using a utility pole ended up knocking out the electricity for more than 700 homes in a Scottish town. Hazel Lawton posted an apology to a local Facebook group after a 4-year-old bull, Ron, rubbed up against the utility pole and ended up knocking the transformer box to the ground. Our bull, Ron, would like to apologize to everyone in Chapelton and Strathaven for causing last night's power cut to over 700 homes, Lawton wrote. He had an itchy bum, so he scratched it on the electricity pole, and knocked the transformer box off. She said Ron is happy to be alive after managing to avoid an 11,000-volt shock from the fallen transformer box. Lawton, who runs East Shaunton Hill Farm with her husband, said the local utility company restored powers a few hours later, and that's no bull. Sorry. Now, I saw a video on this, and I don't understand why they needed to apologize because, I don't know, I thought it was rather clever. Korean soccer team apologizes for sex dolls in the stands. Sorry. A professional soccer team in South Korea apologized after the mannequins used to fill the seats during the game were identified as sex dolls. FC Seoul apologized In an Instagram post Sunday after fans watching the K-League game against Kawanji Ju FC pointed out the faux fans in the stands appeared to be sex dolls. Some observers said the banners held by the dummies appeared to reference adult websites. Well, why not? The team said there was apparently a misunderstanding with the supplier, who the Post said had assured officials the dolls were not intended for sexual use. FC Seoul said the dolls were intended to compensate for the lack of fans in the stands amid the corona pandemic. Our intention was to do something lighthearted in these difficult times. We will think hard about what we need to do to ensure that something like this never happens again, the team statement said. I thought it was rather clever. And now we have another story about blow-up dolls. Restaurant using blow-up dolls to enforce social distancing. A South Carolina restaurant partially reopening for dine-in customers is keeping the tables compliant with social distancing guidelines by filling the dining room with blow-up dolls. The Open Hearth restaurant in Taylor's closed its dining room due to a COVID-19 pandemic March 17th and was allowed to reopen this week with a reduced capacity and a requirement that customers are seated 6 feet apart. The owners of the eatery, Paula Star Malahys and her husband Jimmy, said they didn't want the restaurant to look empty when customers came in to eat. Instead of using scary yellow tape or roping off the empty tables, I thought, we're going to make this restaurant look full. She ordered a G-rated kind of inflatable dolls from Amazon, dressed them up like customers, and seated them at tables that would be off limits to diners. My grandson told me they look kind of creepy, but I think when people walk in, they're going to laugh. Malahi said the restaurant is being careful to observe all of the state's guidelines to remain open to customers. We're doing everything we can to make sure we do this right. We just didn't want the virus to be what shuts us down. And if I remember correctly, there is another restaurant, I want to say Greenville. It is a historical site as well. I believe they did the same thing with mannequins, putting them in the restaurant, seated and dressed up. Hey, you gotta do what you gotta do these days. Now, this next story, I love what they have done. It's rather ingenious. What are you gonna do when you have a million inner tubes laying around? You turn them into tables, of course. Restaurants' new tables have huge inner tubes for social distancing. A popular waterfront restaurant in Maryland has come up with a way to keep customers at a safe distance that actually looks pretty fun, and it does. Fishtails Bar and Grill in Ocean City has bought new bumper tables that are surrounded by large inner tubes to keep diners from getting too close. It's one of the creative ways restaurants are coming up with to keep their customers safe as states begin to ease restrictions during the virus pandemic. At Fishtails Bar and Grill, the custom-built tables look like huge 45 vinyl records and are on wheels so people can walk in the restaurant's parking lot and bar area and mingle while enjoying a cocktail or some food. Maryland began reopening parts of the state on Friday as a part of their multi-phase recovery plan. Under Stage 1, retail businesses, manufacturers, houses of worship, personal service businesses like barbers and hair salons are able to operate with limited capacity and other safety precautions. Ooh, I need a haircut. Sorry. Restaurants in the state are currently only allowed to offer delivery, takeout, or drive-through service. States that have opened for dining in have added restrictions. In Ohio, for example, tables need to be 6 feet apart or have barriers separating diners. So you're seeing a lot of plexiglass go up in some of these restaurants too to separate. Fishtails Bar and Grill owner Shauna and Donna Harmon said they'll use the tables for customers who are waiting for tables or would normally sit at the bar. I mean, it's a novelty. It's cool. It's a great photo opportunity for them, Shauna Harmon said. They said it will also make it easier for restaurant staff to enforce social distancing. If you put the two tables together, you can't get within 6 feet of each other, and it's fun. Her cousin runs Revolution Event and Design and Production, the Baltimore company that is building the tables. Donna Harmon said they talked about the idea for a couple of weeks, and then she ordered 10 for the restaurant. The company also hopes to sell them to other restaurants and rent them for events. Outdoor dining still isn't yet available, so the Harmons aren't sure when they'll be able to start using the tables. Fishtails just started offering takeout service on Friday after delaying its season's opening because of the pandemic. The restaurant usually opens around Easter and closes for the season in October. It just really didn't make sense for us to open any sooner because it's been cold, wet spring, and there was nobody to sell to. She's hoping they can have outdoor seating in time to feed the hordes of Memorial Day tourists that they're expecting. Let's turn over one more. Ocean City has already had to cancel or postpone a lot of the big tourist events, but the Harmons said they'll be able to hold on. As far as the season goes, we don't anticipate anywhere near a normal summer, and we're prepared for that. Our goal for this year is to be here next year. It's as simple as that. We just want to make sure our employees are taken care of and they can make enough money to get through the winter. And you know, with what we have done with the governments, a lot of people are they're teetering on the edge. I'll give you an example. My son is a hairdresser. He owns a salon. Now, when they had the small business loans that came out, he applied, but they did not fulfill it because they had already run out of money. He is a sole proprietor, and in most states, sole proprietors cannot apply for unemployment. They don't qualify, which means he has gone for months without any income. Now, there is no reason that he couldn't have done one client per hour with cleaning in between. You know, no hair coloring, no blowouts, no whatever. And it could have been safe because it is a small salon. I think there's 3 or 4 chairs in it. But they're all suffering. They have no income. And I don't think a lot of people understand that about a lot of hairdressers, small business owners. If you are their sole proprietor, even though you pay in unemployment, insurance tax, and workman's comp and all that, you don't ever see any of it back in a situation like that. So this is where I think we need to be a little kinder to those that have decided to go against the quarantine shutdowns and open up their businesses the most safe way that they can. And I will say this, I know there are a lot that are doing it under what I would call under the table. so to speak. That if you are one of their customers, you contact them, they will arrange for you to come, or they will come to you. So let's be a little kinder to them. They're going without salaries. They're going without any income other than what they can scrape up here and there. So this is one of those times when I think that our Congress and our leaders should be going without a paycheck the way the rest of us are. But they're not. They're getting paid regularly, regardless of whether they're showing up for work or not. So, I'm going to end on that note. Everybody be kind. Be a little kinder, gentler to those who are doing what they do to make ends meet. See you again later. Bye.